The number is so large it barely feels real. The United States has officially crossed $37 trillion in national debt. That's not projected debt. That's real, on-the-books obligation, and it's climbing by the second. Politicians in Washington might pretend this is just business as usual, but make no mistake. This is a flashing red warning light for the global economy, the future of the dollar, and the financial stability of every American household. Because what's happening now is beyond reversal and accelerating fast. It can't be voted away, negotiated out, or restructured with a clever policy speech. We are now in the endgame of debt-driven collapse, and the fuse is burning faster than anyone expected. To understand the danger, we have to start with what just happened. As of this week, the U.S. national debt has climbed to $37.1 trillion, with projections showing it could reach $41 trillion by 2027, just 2 years from now. To put that in perspective, the entire U.S. economy, measured by GDP, is around $27 trillion. That means America owes over 137% of what it produces in a year. This level of debt is not normal. It's not manageable. And it's no longer a theoretical problem that future generations will handle. It's here now, and it's already reshaping the financial world. The federal government is now spending over $1 trillion per year just on interest payments alone. That's more than the entire annual military budget. It's more than all education, transportation, and public housing programs combined. And the burden of that interest cost is rising fast because rates are still high. The Federal Reserve's benchmark rate remains above 5%, and any sustained inflation could keep it there longer than expected. That means as older debt matures and is refinanced at today's higher rates, the interest burden grows exponentially, no matter what spending cuts or tax changes are proposed. This is what economists call a debt spiral. You borrow more to cover previous borrowing. Your interest costs rise, so you borrow even more to pay those costs. And round it goes until something breaks. Historically, the U.S. was able to avoid this trap by keeping interest rates low and economic growth high. But today's environment has changed in ways that make the old strategies useless. Growth is slowing. Productivity is flatlining. Consumer spending is weakening under the weight of inflation and credit fatigue. Meanwhile, the cost of servicing the debt is exploding. This is why analysts are calling this the most dangerous financial setup in modern history. The world is watching this unfold with growing concern. Foreign buyers, once the biggest holders of U.S. Treasury debt, are backing away. China, Japan, and other major holders have been slowly reducing their exposure to American bonds. Major domestic institutions are now sounding the alarm as well. J.P. Morgan's latest report says the U.S. debt trajectory is now structurally unsustainable. Moody's has warned of a possible downgrade to America's credit outlook. And legendary investors like Ray Dalio and Stanley Druckenmiller are predicting a bond market revolt if spending isn't curbed. Here's the problem the system refuses to face. There is no political appetite for serious change. Both parties continue to pass massive spending bills, emergency packages, bailouts, foreign aid, military funding, green energy subsidies, infrastructure proposals, and debt ceiling suspensions. The cycle continues without pause or accountability. And every one of those bills adds fuel to the fire. This is why the collapse can no longer be stopped. Because it's not just a math problem, it's a structural problem built into the way Washington operates. This is where the danger starts to affect your life directly. As debt climbs, the government has fewer options. They can't raise taxes too aggressively without crushing the economy. They can't cut spending dramatically without sparking political backlash. They can't default, because that would destroy the dollar's credibility. So what's left? The government prints more money to delay the consequences. They debase the currency by issuing more dollars to service debt. And when that happens, your money loses value. Quietly, relentlessly, and permanently. This is stealth taxation. Invisible, corrosive, and already underway. Over the past 5 years, the purchasing power of the dollar has declined by over 20%. Groceries, housing, insurance, and healthcare are all more expensive, not because they became more valuable, but because your dollar became weaker. This hidden tax is accelerating rapidly beneath the surface. The Congressional Budget Office projects that by 2034, interest on the debt will be the single largest line item in the federal budget, bigger than Medicare, bigger than Social Security. That means most of your tax dollars will be going toward interest payments, not services, not infrastructure, not public investment, and that is a recipe for national decay. Schools deteriorate, roads crumble, defense weakens, innovation stalls, and the country begins to lose its competitive edge on the world stage. And meanwhile, the debt keeps growing. So what happens next? Eventually, financial markets begin to lose faith in the system. If investors believe the U.S. can no longer manage its debt without printing, they will demand higher yields to hold treasuries. That pushes borrowing costs even higher, deep in the spiral. That shift has already begun to surface. The yield on the 10-year Treasury has been pushing higher again, hovering near 4.3% despite recession fears. Once confidence collapses, the fallout can be immediate and severe. We've seen this story before in Argentina, in Turkey, in the United Kingdom during the 2022 pension crisis. When trust in sovereign debt collapses, it triggers currency panic, capital flight, and systemic volatility. The majority of Americans are completely unprepared for what's coming. They assume the U.S. is too big to fail, that the dollar will always be king, that Treasury bonds are risk-free, but the laws of mathematics don't care about politics. Right now, the financial math is absolutely unforgiving. If interest rates stay elevated and the debt continues growing at its current pace, the U.S. will be spending $2 trillion per year on interest alone by the end of the decade. That's not just unsustainable, it's a catastrophe waiting to happen. It would crowd out every other part of the budget. It would force even more money printing, and it would risk triggering a debt confidence crisis that could shatter global markets. This is why smart investors are preparing now. They're shifting toward hard assets. Real estate, gold, energy, private equity, decentralized finance, anything that holds value when currencies weaken and governments lose control. These investors are watching every signal with laser focus. Bond yield spikes, treasury auctions that go poorly, foreign divestment, and warnings from credit rating agencies. All of these are signals that the system is straining under its own weight. This is the most important financial story of our time because it affects everything: your savings, your retirement, your home, your children's future. We are now past the point of easy solutions. We're entering the era of consequences, and no one in power seems willing to face that truth. But you still have time to act and position yourself. You can stay ahead of what's coming by cutting debt, holding real assets, and staying alert. The collapse may not happen overnight, but the system is already cracking in ways most people don't see. And when it breaks, it won't give you a second warning. It will move fast and hit hard. Because this debt story isn't just about economics, it's about sovereignty, survival, and the silent war over who controls the future of money. If you want to stay ahead of the next financial shift, make sure you subscribe. We're tracking every signal, and the next one could change everything.